And now it's time for the bald and the beautiful.
All right, Tim Hasselbeck is bald.
Totally
I'm
bald.
balding. There's an ing in there. And we're here to talk about some beautiful players from week number 3, except this time, Tim, it's beautiful players who are having head-scratching seasons. Let's start with quarterback Andrew Luck. He's QB 22 on the season. He's healthy, but is his arm strength healthy? I mean, how concerned are you about Luck, T.Y. Hilton, and this Colts offense going forward?
Really concerned as you just kind of look at yards per attempt for Andrew Luck. I mean, the reality is they aren't pushing the ball down the field. That could be a philosophical change with this Colts offense, but when he was removed from the game to throw the Hail Mary, really on a 55-yard throw, Matthew, I thought there isn't another starting quarterback in the NFL that would get removed for that. Then you just go back and look at some of the throws where the ball was just dying on its way to get to T.Y. Hilton or Eric Ebron on a throw that should have been a touchdown. I think I have real concerns about Andrew Luck and how healthy he really is. I mean, so I don't think we're seeing an Andrew Luck with his fastball, and so I am concerned about him going forward.
I am too, and listen, you can make a living as a dink and dunk quarterback in the NFL. Alex Smith is a great example of this, but I think for our purposes, I don't know that you feel super confident about Andrew Luck as your QB1 if he's the only guy in your team. Chances are because of his injury history, you drafted another quarterback. I think you might be thinking about starting whoever else is on your roster than Andrew Luck until we see a little bit more consistency and a little bit further throws downfield. To me, T.Y. Hilton, the only Colt you can trust. I guess Ebron, if you're desperate.
And I think his value is a little bit lower, T.Y.'s. Yeah. So.
Sure. If you look at his average depth of target, it's definitely shorter than it has been in years past. All right, so another head scratcher is the Arizona Cardinals offense. I mean, this has been brutal, and David Johnson went in the top 3 of pretty much every fantasy draft this year. Larry Fitzgerald, a top 15 wide receiver. You see it there on your screen. He went as wide receiver 10, currently wide receiver 65 on the season. Boy, what do you make of this offense? What do you make of Mike McCoy's play calling? And more importantly, does it get better with Josh Rosen under center?
I actually think it does get better with Josh Rosen under center. In terms of Mike McCoy, look, he got the offense coordinator job there, but wasn't able to bring all his guys. And so who knows what's going to happen here throughout the season if that offense continues to struggle. His job may be in jeopardy. I think there has to be somewhat of a correction. Look, Carson Palmer, not that he was a perfect player, but he was better than Sam Bradford.
Yeah.
And so I think with Fitz and the hamstring injury and the fact that Sam Bradford ended up being the quarterback, I think you could have seen this coming for Fitz. For David Johnson, I think it's just the offense has been so bad. They haven't been in scoring position much. It doesn't seem like they've used him the way that Bruce Arians seemed to use him, where they're moving him around all over the field. We're talking about him as a Matt Forte, Le'Veon Bell type of player. They just haven't done that with him yet. And so I'm not sure that that's going to change. I would be really concerned if I invested a really early pick on David Johnson.
If you hang your hat on something, it's that you hope the offense takes a leap forward with Josh Rosen, and his volume has still been there. I mean, he's still getting a high percentage of touches among running backs in the NFL on his team. But to your point, they're not scoring at all. They're not using him as a pass catcher. The one thing about Arians' offense is it pushed the ball down the field. And so, Carson would like to chuck it. And so that opened up a lot of underneath stuff for David Johnson, who ran a lot of routes. And that's just not happening. They're keeping it close to the line of scrimmage. His defenses aren't scared of him. He's not running nearly as many routes as he did in 2016 when he was the #1 player in fantasy. So
maybe the offense changes a bit in that regard, where you're getting the balls to the back in the passing game with Rosen as a starter.
Yeah, so I don't know what you do other than hang tough and hope, because at the moment it's hard to get anything for David Johnson. This is a question that came up on the podcast real quickly. I'm curious, rest of the season right now, who would you rather have in fantasy, David Johnson or Le'Veon Bell? If you had David Johnson and I offered you Le'Veon Bell,
Le'Veon may not report until November, so I think I'd stick with David Johnson.
We agreed that's where we went as well. But, I mean, that just sort of tells you how far David Johnson's stock is falling, that you have to think about it for a guy that currently isn't on an NFL team or isn't playing in the NFL that's sitting at home. So that's another head-scratcher. But one I think that is probably the biggest head-scratcher so far this year is the Patriots. We all expected this to be one of the best offenses in football. Through 3 weeks, Josh Allen, who didn't even start the first game of the season, has more fantasy points than Tom Brady, the GOAT. So, this is a team that hasn't rushed for a single touchdown this season, one of the best rushing teams in the NFL over the last couple of years. How confident are you that Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and Josh McDaniels figure this thing out?
I mean, to be honest with you, I'm very confident that they get it figured out, just because history has proven that they figure it out. The other aspect of it is when they figured it out in the past, it hasn't been because, like, oh, by the way, and you're getting your best receiver back. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to get Julian Edelman back. And so when that happens, I think that changes the dynamic for Gronk. It changes the dynamic, obviously, for Edelman and Brady. And then I think it really changes how we look at those running backs in New England. So once you add him back into the mix, I think that offense is going to look completely different. And then I think there's just really what was the buzz last week of, okay, and then what does it mean for Josh Gordon? Right. So I am 100% patient on the New England Patriots offense. I think a lot of analysts were early to the party a few years ago, and they shouldn't have been. Right. I'm going to be late to the panic on the Patriots party. That's for sure.
We talked about this yesterday on the show as well. 2014, after that Monday night game against Kansas City, everyone's throwing
when they weren't
dirt
good anymore.
Yeah, they throw the dirt on the grave of the Patriots. That team ends up winning the Super Bowl that year. So if ever there was a coach, a quarterback, a coordinator that you think gets a little bit of a leash here to figure it out, it's Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniels, and Tom Brady. And to your point, adding Josh Gordon, adding Julian Edelman.
And beyond that, if Drew Brees was without Michael Thomas, then we would say, well, wait until Michael Thomas gets back and he'll be fine.
Of course. And tough division game at home against the 3-0 Dolphins on Sunday, so we'll see. But I do think Brady in a home game, remember, he's been on the road now 2 straight weeks as well. I think in a home game, he bounces back in a big way. Their run game's also been inconsistent too, right? They haven't had Sony Michel. Rex Burkhead's been in and out of the lineup as well. So I agree with you. They will get that all figured out. For all the latest fantasy football news and analysis, you can binge watch all the episodes of the Fantasy Show right now on ESPN+.